Good morning. You know, we just heard some great information about what's going on with our health and what we should do to take care of ourselves. Now, let me tell you a little bit about myself before I get started. I have been working in the healthcare industry for a little over 20 years. In fact, I started with Dr. Shibuya in Fremont when he opened his office. And I've been on the other side in pharma. And the reason I chose healthcare as a career was on the heels of a very tough time in my life. I'd gone through a life-threatening illness, so I had to rehabilitate myself back to health. And so I know what it's like to wake up and be in pain. I know what it's like to have to take a lot of pills. I know what it's like to be so lethargic that you can hardly lift your head. I know what that's like. And so in building my health back, I gained this passion for all things health related. So I've been on the other side, as I said, with the pill and describing what it's like for you to take the pill, which patient the pill would be best for. I've done all of that. Now I get the opportunity to really move into what my passion is, and that's healthy habits. So what is health coaching? Health coaching is really helping you develop sustainable, healthy actions that become habits. A habit that you wake up to, a habit that you incorporate in your life that you don't even have to think about. That's what health coaching is. So, Doctor has gone over a lot of information, but especially when he talks about the sleep and the stress and the nutrition, that's critical. But what health coaching does is it develops a plan specifically for you. We've talked about general information, but now we're talking more specific. In other words, it's a one-on-one interaction with someone who looks at what's gone on in your life, what would work for your life, and that's where you start. But I want to get to actually the end quickly. I've got 4 slides here. I want to get to the end quickly because that's going to tell you where you really are, why or why not certain behaviors have worked for you. But I also want to talk about that slippery slope of the new normal. Let's say that when you look at where you are today and you look at where you were 5 years ago, you're now compensating for something that maybe pains you. Maybe you're taking a little more medication. Maybe you just don't feel yourself anymore. It's a slippery slope when you start compensating for that rather than making those changes you really know you should be making. Because we're not telling you anything you really don't intuitively know, which is that healthful eating, activity, and being in charge of your life really makes you more independent, and it gives you a better outcome overall. So these are some of the factors that we will be discussing one-on-one and working on. So now we get to the stages. Pre Contemplation, for example. I love talking about the stages because here's what I want all of you to do. I'm going to put them all up. And I want you to write down, that's your homework, I want you to write down where you are. Pre Contemplation. This is where you're blaming external circumstances for where you are. For example, the doctor says, I think you should start to think about eating more healthily. I think you should take a look at your diet. And you say, well, yeah, I think I should too, but I'm not in charge of the meal making at home. I'm not in charge of buying the food. I can't do that because at work we don't have anything that I can eat that's really healthy. That's pre-contemplation. Contemplation actually is when you say to yourself, oh, I think I'm going to eat a smaller portion. Or you start announcing to friends, I'm on a diet. This is great. Today I'm going to do this. And you start making little changes, but that's contemplation. That's not really action because that you take 2 steps forward and then you take 2 steps back. And then you find at some point you've stopped doing it altogether. Why? Because you didn't have a plan, which is preparation. This is where your health coach helps you to put those goals in writing. Because if it's not written down, it's just an idea. If it's not planned, it's just an idea. It's just a thought. It's something you want to do. So preparation actually it's a key step in that it takes where you are and you start to look at and examine what has gone on before, what worked for you before, what won't work now. It takes you where you want to be. It takes you where you want to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now, because you need to start thinking about that. And I'll give you a place to start with. If you look back 5 or 10 years ago, didn't you think, God, I'm getting old. I can't make any changes now. Well, look at where you are now. So if you think about it today, making a change today is going to make 5 years from now better, and the next 5 years better. The fact is, none of us are going to get out of this alive. But let's try and live the best life we can by making the best changes we can. Action is actually baby steps. Baby steps in that once you've laid out your preparation and you've got your plan and we start to work together, we take one step, not try to do everything at one time. One step, one focus. Maybe it is on labels, learning the best we can about the labels and knowing that when we're shopping, we're getting the foods we should be getting. That's your first step. And then as that becomes a habit, you incorporate the next step until all of those steps become habits. And then you go into maintenance. And once you're into maintenance, and that's around the 6-month range, typically. Once you go into maintenance, that is when you don't say, oh, I've got this, and continue on. You start to make sure that you keep notes on how you felt 6 months ago, because that's what reminds you. That gives you the confidence to continue on. It reminds you of how powerful you are in making those choices. It gives you the catalyst to continue. Those are the 5 stages. So again, I hope that you have written down where you see yourself now, because when you meet with or talk with a health coach or me, that we decide where you are and we come up with what the plan would be for where you want to be. So I hope that I've been able to help you understand.